The Fate series has been a strong staple of Type Moon since its debut 15 years ago. The series is also now considered Type Moon's cash cow given its popularity and reach, as well as my terrible luck in Fate Grand Order, the complementary mobile gacha game for the series. Something about summoning historical and mythical figures as servants and duking it out just seems to appeal to people. And in this review we'll be looking at Fate Extella Link, the sequel to 2016/2017's Fate Extella the Umbral Star, a game I'd previously reviewed. Like the previous game, for transparency I was given a code for this game courtesy of a PR network, and it is also the reason why I didn't delve into the online multiplayer features. As another heads up, there will be minor spoilers regarding aspects of other Fate material such as the identities of servants, and there may be mispronunciations, so I apologise in advance. Nothing in the way of story spoilers though. Fate Extella Link continues on from the end of Fate Extella the Umbral Star. In this game you play as either a male or female master with the default name of Hakuno Kishinami, or whatever you like to call yourself, living peacefully with your servants from the last game. While you're out and about with the servant Altera, you're suddenly approached by attack programs, and just as you attempt to summon one of your other servants as Altera is unable to fight, you're rescued by a mysterious sword-wielding young man. After dispatching the programs and learning the basics of the game, the young man introduces himself as the Saber-class servant Charlemagne, and after evacuating some of your servants to his travelling fortress, a new journey begins. Fate Extella Link follows the Muso or Dynasty Warriors-esque formula of its predecessor, but with some new changes, whether they're visual changes or changes to the game's mechanics. Visually, the game's been updated with servants looking a lot better and attacks looking more impressive compared to the previous game. In terms of gameplay features, during the course of a battle, events will happen where you need to defeat certain enemies, rescue a character who's been kidnapped, or destroy things hiding parts on the map from you, for example. The Master now has a voice and is also on the field. This explains how codecasts or certain skills you can use to buff or heal your servants work. The Regalia system is no longer in use, and servants are given skills they can activate while attacking which can be used to deal damage to groups of enemies. Noble Phantasms are back and are easier to perform in Extella Link. A Noble Phantasm is a very powerful signature attack and is a representation of one of the legendary or mythical feats a servant has achieved while alive, though creative liberties are taken here. The cast has been expanded from the original 16 servants from Fate Extella returning, and 10 new entries to the roster, with one more confirmed at the time of this review as DLC. But is the game any good? Find out in The Good. The game's mechanics, as I mentioned earlier, are a welcome change, and I certainly found them more hectic than collecting keys in the first Fate Extella game. The events are appropriately performed by enemy servants who have those skills, and while I haven't been put into situations where I've escaped defeat by the skin of my teeth, the feeling of urgency is certainly still there. The game's stages also have a recommended level, and you can always challenge yourself by going in with an underlevel servant to increase your max level as you play, while having to pay attention to the damage you deal and take from being underleveled. The game also has a feature where you can spend in-game points to level up your servants, limiting you to the level that your most powerful servant is at. This certainly removes the grinding aspect, as I've never been short of points to upgrade servants with. The expanded cast is another thing I really liked about the game. While the first game had a pretty good cast of servants, the new entries are impressive too, and some have ties to the original cast, such as Lancelot to Sir Gawain and Arthuria, the Indian hero Arjuna as a rival to the Indian hero Kana, and Gilles de Rais, a former companion of Jeanne d'Arc to name a few. And each servant plays a little differently, with Lancelot personally being my favourite character to play as mechanics wise. An improvement over the first game is that as more servants join you, they can participate in the main story as well, instead of limiting you to Nero, Tamamo no Mai and Altera. Side stories are now extra battles, with some reenacting certain missions from the story, and others being one-off maps with their own story. By completing certain extra battles, you can unlock alternative outfits for your servants. Once you get to a certain point in the game, you can play as any servant you have unlocked on any story mission, regardless of whether they are in the story as an ally, enemy, or at all at that point. Side missions are much more manageable, but the issue I had where I had to pause the game to find out if I'd completed it or not remains. By completing side missions, you can increase your bond level with your servants, and if used for support, they can help you defend against attacks or even use skills when you do. I found that these were certainly a big step up when compared to the first game. The issues I had with locking on have been addressed, and lock-on will affect any major enemy, whether it's an aggressor or an enemy servant now. Plants have also had an expanded role, so as well as creating enemies, they can also be the culprits behind jamming the map, so having to search for them in areas where you can't rely on your mini-map was enjoyable. I don't have any issues with the camera anymore, so it's good to see that little things I didn't like about the Umbral Star got sorted out. In saying that though, this is where it ends for the good and where we look at what wasn't so good with the bad. The story was passable, and having played visual novels, the issue of the story dragging along wasn't a big thing for me. What I wasn't too keen on was that story progression could have used a little more variety. At certain points in the game you have the option to make a choice, and I found that most of your choices didn't really make a huge impact on the story, especially a part where the story splits into 4 and you go and rescue one servant. No matter what you do, a separate team will rescue the other ones in the paths you haven't chosen, and you can use all of them afterwards anyway. Alternatively, you can just simply play the other paths that you didn't pick and find that the consequences didn't really matter. Thankfully, there are sections that do reflect the consequences by restricting the servants you use, or in one branch, a whole character will either be there or not. I just feel that the Fate series, a series known to be lore heavy and convoluted at times, could have done a better job. I liked how the Umbral Star told its story from different perspectives, so I think having a similar approach where you side with the bad guy could have been an avenue to explore. A minor issue, but I found that blocking was a bit of an issue in the game. As opposed to having a just guard option, I found that you really need to block before your opponent even attacks for it to be effective. Once an opponent's attack connects, they will punish you, especially if you're taking on stages 20 to 30 levels ahead of you, or fighting 2 servants at once. Other than that, I think I've covered the things I didn't really like, so let's wrap it up with the opinion. I think Fate Extella Link is quite an improvement over Fate Extella, the Umbral Star. The visual changes were quite appealing, and it definitely shows, especially on some characters. The updated mechanics and expanded cast were things I enjoyed about the game, though the story structure could have used a little more work, and I wasn't overly sold on the guard mechanic, not that I really used it anyway. If you're a fan of the Fate series, or if you like the idea of historical and mythical characters fighting one another, then I would definitely recommend this game to you. You don't even need to have played Fate Extella the Umbral Star to really understand what's going on, though if you have, the story will make a little more sense. I also recommend giving Fate Extra on the PSP a go as well if you want to get into the series. If you really enjoy reading, then go back to where it all began and give the visual novel Fate Stay Night a go. As a heads up, the visual novel on PC does contain adult content, as Fate Stay Night was originally an erotic visual novel. The series has done well over the past 15 years, and I'm sort of hoping we see another game like Fate Extra in future, as I think that might interest the Fate Grand Order crowd. But with that, it's time for my rating. I would give Fate Extella Link... Well, I've rated myself back into a corner here by using Tamamo no Mai as the rating for the first game. I suppose I'll give this one the smaller DLC variation of her, out of 10. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next Infinite Backlog review. If you enjoyed today's review, feel free to check out some of our other videos and subscribe for more. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram and our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for watching.